I moved to Sweden for maybe the most banal reason people move around the world. Love.
Of course.
There are less women into the jazz scene than men.
I remember my grandma saying, "Oh, why are you playing the saxophone? That's such a manly, instrument. You should play the violin or the flute." And I was like, "Come on, that's not fun."
3 years ago, I decided to dedicate the Stockholm Women Jazz Festival to Ukraine, inviting only Ukrainian jazz artists. It was a statement. There are so many ways that art can really shape up this society.
Hey, allihopa, and welcome to Somewhere in Stockholm, a podcast production brought to you by Experience Stockholm. I'm Frankie, your host, and in this episode, we will be diving a little bit deeper into the story behind one of our very own. So I'm speaking about Loredana Franza. She is one of our guides and also one of our event planners at Experience Stockholm. And since I've had so many of my colleagues on this podcast, I thought it would be a nice way to give an opportunity to Loredana to come and chat a little bit more with us. I always enjoy chatting with her a little bit more. So first and foremost, so you know a little bit about Loredana, I will introduce her properly. Loredana has been the project manager of Semente Cultural Productions and founder of Effe events. Back in Italy, she worked for years as event coordinator in various sectors such as tourism, meeting industry, and fundraising. Since 2017, she's lived in Sweden and worked as an artist booking agent, as well as an international tour manager. As project manager of Semente Cultural Productions and director since 2023, during the last 6 years, Loredana has focused on the artistic direction and production of jazz festivals, including Stockholm's Women's International Jazz Festival, concert series, and international music projects in Sweden and abroad, such as jazz education projects for youngsters and kids, like Jazz Camp for Girls. I'm very excited to be welcoming Loredana, and I'm really thrilled to be jumping into this episode. So welcome, Loredana. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Fran. I'm fine. I'm very happy to be here and chatting a little bit with you.
As usual, we're always chatting. Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to get started by talking a little bit about your personal journey. Like, what brought you to Sweden? You can say as little or as much as you wish, but just so people have a little bit more of an understanding of who you are.
Yeah, this is an interesting story. So I moved to Sweden for maybe the most banal reason people move around the world. One of these reasons is love.
Of course.
I met a Swedish guy. And then actually I met him, and 4 months later I was in Sweden. So I moved to this beautiful country. And my partner, he is a professional jazz musician. And yes, I start immediately to enter the music scene, thanks to him, of course. And then this is where I met my former colleagues and founder of Semente Cultural Productions, Silvia Sardeira, a Portuguese girl. She was living in Sweden since 7-8 years by then. So, and she invited me to join her into this adventure as a producer in the music events. That music was new for me, but as you mentioned in my presentation, I was already working in Italy with the events in the meeting industry, so it wasn't pretty new. I mean, it's more or less the same thing. And that's how my adventure in Sweden, professional adventure, started, and my personal adventure is still going on.
Yes, I love that. And now we're also part of your adventure, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's chat a little bit more about these initiatives that you began working on as part of Semente and also with LAF events. Do you feel like you've always meant to be in this artistic world? Like, was this something you were working actively towards, or it just made sense once you were here in Sweden, and especially in initiatives like Jazz Camp for Girls? I feel like you've been applying for funding and also trying to secure, some sort of, stable ground here with the local initiatives that you organized. So what drove you? Why this field? Why this particular interest?
Yeah, as I said, it was natural sort of to start within the same field that my partner belonged to. But also because there was always, I always been considering myself a good listener. When they ask me, "Are you also an artist? Do you also play an instrument?" I always say no, but I'm a good listener. I've been listening to lots of music for all my life. I always attend live concerts, so this was really part of myself, and it was very natural for me to step into this world in a professional way. So with the skills learned in Italy in the events organization, sort of, and bringing this expertise into the music world was very natural for me. And Semente. Semente is a lovely, small cultural association, and the name itself, Semente, as you may know in Portuguese, means seed. So, and this is actually the approach I always had since the very last moment I met Silvia. We got along very well together, probably because we were too Mediterranean into this Nordic world. And we really had the same mindset. And also the cultural approach we had in mind with Semente was literally planting a seed into other people's minds. About culture, about music in general, but culture in general, and also somehow helping artists in make their own seeds growing in the best environment. So as a producer, let's behind the scene workers, sort of.
Do you ever feel that were people receptive towards this sort of artistic endeavor when you first moved to Sweden? Was there a big cultural shift for you? Like, organizing this type of event in Italy versus organizing this type of event in Sweden? Did you see any major cultural differences in how people, either received it or supported it? What was it like?
There are some differences that belongs to the environment, like for instance, the grant support, the way they work in Sweden and the way they work in Italy. Honestly, Sweden, it's far ahead compared to Italy. Italy has been changing in the very few years. Let's say after the pandemic, they realized, like all the rest of the world, that culture is actually a business field. So, and they also realized the cultural workers were people actually that create also economic value, of course. And but in Sweden there were already some policies, very good policies about cultural support. And but the way, for instance, if we talk about audience, the way people receive this kind of events, I don't know if there is a big difference between Italy and Sweden. It might be that the Swedish audience is a bit, I would say, skeptical, sort of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A bit.
Less experimental, would you say?
No, you have to build everything into this Swedish society. You have to build up your reputation first.
Okay. And they don't trust you to organize.
Okay, exactly. But that's correct. I mean, it's just I'm not saying it's wrong or good. It's different from Italy. Italians are much more enthusiastic people in general. So, and there's also, I mean, the audience usually is definitely welcoming or open and to something to new, to experiment something new, for instance. I don't know, but once you build up your good reputation in Sweden, they really are sort of they follow you. They trust you and they follow you. So But in general, working in the music field, it's a challenge everywhere, I would say.
Speaking of challenges, because I'm assuming there have been many, especially you as a foreigner, as an outsider coming in, like we said, trying to build up trust. What have been some of the most maybe rewarding challenges and perhaps some of the challenges that maybe kind of put a lot of barriers for you? So how do you feel as you entered the Swedish music scene? What were the biggest challenges for you that you can look back now and you're like, oh, this is an example of something I had to struggle with?
Personal challenge for me, of course, it was as a newcomer just to make the people in business know me, sort of. So, and this takes time as everyone new in a business. So you just have to. This is a business where you really work a lot on personal networking. So, and this takes time to build personal networking in a new field, in a new country. And I won't say the language barriers because Sweden, another different between Sweden and Italy, that here everyone speaks English. In Italy, it would have been a struggle, and it's a struggle for a foreigner to start if they don't speak basic Italian, for instance. Also in this such international environment, like the music scene, sort of. So this was very, very easy for me to start with that. And then, as the audience, also the fellow colleagues in the productions, you have to build your own reputation with them as well. They have to see how you work, if you are trustworthy, and so on. So, and this luckily happened because, I always been very professional and serious, I believe, and I love what I do. So, and I think that if you love what you do, it's easy also to show others that you are serious.
Yes. Frankie here, quickly popping in to remind you to subscribe to our channel. This is the one thing you can do for free that really helps us keep this thing going. So please subscribe, hit that like button, and it will really help us out. To segue from your commitment to being a professional and working heavily in trying to create programming for the music industry in Sweden, especially for smaller artists, I want to delve a little bit deeper into how do you ensure that there are equal opportunities for women, for people of minority backgrounds, especially in this music industry that sometimes tends to be quite we want the mainstream, we want what's acceptable, what's already famous or popular. So how do you support these underrepresented voices in this Swedish cultural sector, I guess? Like what has been some of your work there?
Yeah, this is a choice, definitely a personal choice. Once again, going back to Semente, even when I started working with Silvia, we were already open to this. We realized 7 years ago that even in Sweden, one of the most advanced country in gender balance in the society in general, there was a gap, a gender gap into the music scene. And maybe I didn't mention so far that I've been working mostly into the jazz scene. So it's also a niche genre within the niche field of music. So imagine a jazz scene is even more masculine than other genres like pop. Exactly, definitely. And we realized for this reason that was the time to start in Stockholm a jazz festival dedicated to female musician, composer, band leaders with original projects. That doesn't mean having only women on stage. It's something else. It's giving those female artists who are anyway underrepresented in the main festivals all over the world, even in Sweden, and not only because of a lack of number, which is actually a reality. There are less women into let's say, the jazz scene than men. And this is also a reason why a few years ago, the National Association of Jazz in Denmark, Jazz Denmark, started a project called Jazz Camp for Girls, which I brought to Sweden a few years ago, because we start to look into the reasons why there are less women in numbers than men as professional artists, and you go backwards. So what something happened when on stage? No, maybe before. When at the conservatoire level? No, maybe before. When high school level? No, even before. When they decide in a very early age, 13 years old, more or less, shown after a survey that Jazz Denmark did 10 years ago, that the girls are usually invited to change to a more feminine instrument or start singing instead, even though they spend their childhood playing trumpet or so. So it's a problem, it's a society problem. And projects like Jazz Camp for Girls, who bring girls in that age, 10, 15 years old, for 3-4 days and tell them, you are free here in this environment, you do whatever you want, play whatever you want. And it's much more than just improvised music. It's learning also learning about yourself, how to express yourself.
Social deconditioning, if anything.
Exactly.
And I guess that, just sorry for interrupting you there, but I think in a lot of ways I'm resonating with what you're saying, because I used to play, I think a lot of people who know me, they know this, I used to play the alto sax for like over 11 years. And people always, I remember my grandma saying, oh, why are you playing the saxophone? That's such a manly, instrument. You should play the violin or the flute. And I was like, come on, that's not fun. It's not loud. I want something that's like, fun.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of, and I remember this about the same time that I was, going to music lessons and learning about the instrument and really struggling because the saxophone is a really difficult instrument to master. I remember thinking like, I don't see any women. Like there were, at the time it wasn't women only, but there weren't any girls learning those instruments. They were all learning other things that were a little bit more palatable to what a lady is supposed to play. And that made me feel, well, I was always tomboyish and I was like, screw them, screw the guys. I will do whatever I want. I'm very contrarian. But I actually do think that there's a lot of validity to this, that girls abandon, especially during those adolescent, years,
exactly.
Early teenage years. They always abandon the hobbies that they enjoy because they're told, oh, that's not girly enough, or that's not attractive, or that's not, there's all these misconceptions. So I guess you're trying to combat that, so.
Definitely. And you mentioned you said something like, I didn't see any other girl. So the role models are very important.
Yeah.
That's the reason why into this project also we focus a lot with role models. We always invite professional female musicians to be the teacher during the camps, so the girls can see them. And then we combine the days of a camp with a sort of final show, which is not only mama and papa coming and clapping you in the school, but maybe joining forces with festivals or jazz clubs. So we bring the girls on actual stages so they can have this adrenaline of living
and the feeling. The industry.
Exactly. And always inviting also an artist with a female artist, of course, with their own project to play in front of the girls or with the girls. So the role models, they can meet, talk to these people and tell and get inspired. And these artists can tell the young girls, you can be me one day. Go on if you this is what you want to do. So it's still a long process, but this is a big movement. It's not only a project; it's becoming a movement through all over Europe and even beyond. So and this is only one part of how to tackle the gender balance. Also with the Stockholm Women Jazz Festival. it's important to focus on original projects with the female band leader. Doesn't matter if she has all men in the band. I don't care about this.
But it's about the leadership roles.
Exactly.
Okay.
She is the leader. The music she's playing is original. She's the composer. So it's giving the women a space.
Yeah, to lead. And to be seen. I guess take up space.
To express themselves.
Yeah. I think that's so important because often when in this conversation about gender balance, it always comes back to, it's 50-50 men and women, but that's so reductionist. That's such a simplistic view on gender equality, because to me it's like, well, you can have a 50-50 team, but that doesn't mean that the boss is not perpetuating, the patriarchal, rule over everybody. And it also doesn't mean that you're allowing women or setting them up for success in the way you're helping them develop as talents and as, in growth. And I think it's the same thing when we see role models or when we see people that look like us in any way of representation, right? Be it on media, be it in stages, be it whatever. I think we start to recognize, okay, there's a bias there where if you don't get women at the top, the leaders who are women, and a lot of women are great leaders, who, if you don't showcase their talent, their voices, their way of doing things, you're just going to be missing out on a lot of that influence. And I think that it is powerful to have role models, but also to have people in leadership who look like you, because it kind of says like, well, guess what? I can rule over all these boys. I might be the only woman band leader or something, but I still got there, and I broke that barrier, or I actually I can lead. I can show that I am a leader. I think these are important conversations. And now that we're thinking, we're really discussing this, I'm thinking about a lot of the orchestras that I go and I listen to, or the philharmonics, and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, where do women sit in that crowd? It's always in the flute, it's always in the violins.
Yeah, exactly.
And you rarely see a conductor who's a woman.
Yeah.
And and I'm just like, yeah, this is very true. We don't recognize how socially conditioned it is that we just accept that that's the case. Of course the men, but I'm like, no, why don't we have 50-50 there too? Yeah. So, or even just more opportunities. Yes.
If I may add something also,
yes, please,
it's about also behind the scene. The people who works like me behind the scene, we are not talking here only about artists. The way I can try in my small reality also to tackle the gender imbalance is working with female professionals. So if I have to work with collaborators, graphic designer, photographer, if I may choose, and of course I first watch about the quality of their job, because that's the main thing. But it's also this working with women foster some of your colleagues. It belongs. This problem also belongs to the promoter side. It's not only on the artist and backstage, of course, definitely.
I'm thinking about that now that you said it, because I'm
sound technicians.
You know what? Yes. You know what I've noticed? Every single programming that I've ever been part of, or executive producing, I used to be the executive producer for TEDxKI. And I never noticed this until you just said it now, but I would always be like, why are there no women in the sound and camera crew? Why are there, did they just decide not to pursue this career? Because I'm like, this is a fun job, working in production, event production. And I'm like, why are there no women? So now that you say that is so true, because guess what? I think often men are just like, oh, I like this guy. We hang out, I like hanging out with them. So then I'm going to call my buddy if I have this gig, if I have this job that they can do, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of that access. Maybe you as an organizer, I had a question here about what role do you believe the cultural sector and you as an organizer play in advancing gender equality and diversity? So I'm wondering, what keeps you motivated? Because I'm assuming there are some barriers to actually bringing more women and more diversity into these spaces.
First of all, it's sort of an addiction. The fact that when you organize an event and then the first note starts on stage, that's the best best moment. That's the peak for me, when I can get relaxed, finally maybe grab a beer and say, now it's up to you guys, because whatever I could have done so far, I did it. So it's not up to me now. And that's the moment. And at the same time, it's the peak of my nirvana. Everything starts with the first note, and then it's done for me. It's just about enjoying the moment. This is the biggest motivation, first of all. But then also, there is a motivation also into seeing some outcomes of what you've done. Like, for instance, when you put artists that never played together for the first time, like in a short artistic residency, and they come out with something new, and then maybe after your specific project they decided to collaborate longer, then you say, okay, that was a good job, thanks to me. But also other sort of satisfaction coming also when you decided also to, talking about the role as a organizer, cultural organizer, I believe that culture, especially in these days, is a strong tool to advocate campaigns, to fight injustice, to fight discrimination. And we are not talking about only gender imbalance here. When, for instance, 3 years ago, I decided to dedicate the Stockholm Women Jazz Festival to Ukraine, inviting only Ukrainian jazz artists. It was a statement. I decided to take a position, and I wanted to give voices to those women, female artists who are generally underrepresented, and also to those artists who were threatened in their artistic voice and cultural voice and so on. And the day after, I couldn't go back to a normal programming. I decided to instead dedicate the festival to Afghanistan and Iran. And when I
next year?
Yes, the year after. So in 2023, we worked with Ukraine. In 2024, we worked with Afghanistan, artists from Afghanistan, artists from Iran, and working also creating sort of art actions to collect money, like selling original prints, art prints made by an Afghani artist, graffiti artist, or the year before, we sold an original painting made by a Swedish artist, female Swedish artist, and it went on auction, and that money actually was the painting was bought by the jazz club who hosts the festival, and decided to give this money to a jazz club in Kiev that never closed during the war, and the jazz club in Kiev a few months later used the money to pay Ukrainian artists for playing a weekend dedicated to Swedish jazz musicians. So these things give me motivation also, because from that moment on, for instance, we built up a network, a bridge between Sweden and Ukraine into the name of jazz and art, and it's still going on. We have projects still with these people going on. So, and with the Iran, Afghanistan, it was the same. The collection we collect money out of the printing of the art printing of these Afghani artists, and that money went to an association who help Afghanistan women in sustain their in small entrepreneur activities, because women are banned. They cannot they cannot go outside. They cannot so it's there are so many ways that art, culture in general, can really shape up this society.
So you don't view art as an escape, but actually as a form of self-expression and activism.
Absolutely, yes. And I believe it's one of the most powerful tools we have nowadays, because it's not with violence that you can change things, but it's the soft power that will make the difference.
Yeah, like I agree. And I think that a lot of cultural initiatives right now, if they are not speaking to something, be it political or in the advocacy form, I think they start to feel a little bit empty of meaning. So if anything, music or any other form of art, so like paintings and visual artistry, I think it has to say something about the current times, right? I think it was Nina Simone that's always saying, like, one of the most famous quotes by Nina Simone, I think it says something like, the role of an artist in society is to reflect the times. So I think in a lot of ways, be it through programming such as the one you're trying to create, be it through the sort of collaboration, I think like community building across borders, to really build a community that reciprocates time and time again, and there's a cycle of receiving and gifting, right? I think this is what the world needs more of right now. And like you said, there's soft power, but there's also economic power in these initiatives, because, you know, people, if they spend on entertainment, if they spend on culture, if they spend on the arts, if they want to go to a concert, you know, they're spending that money. That is still an economic choice, a consumer choice to support a specific initiative, a specific, you know, venture. And I think that is also something that often gets missed in this discussion. People always think, oh, artists, you know, they don't make money and therefore there's no economic value. That's really not the case. It's that in supporting these initiatives, you're also having a real direct impact on the local milieu, the local environment, and its economic return. So I think that all of what you said is something we resonate with at Experience Stockholm as well. And that's why I was really excited. And I'm really excited to be working with you on, you know, event planning and some of the events we've been putting on, and you've really helped support in terms of production. They have been about, you know, making a statement, you know, like what we had with Gary's economics, you know, and these are some things that I feel like we as a small cosmos, you know, microcosmos of the whole universe, we can have our direct impact orbit as a business, as a team, as a group of people, and yet it doesn't have to feel that we are just doing it for commercial reasons or purposes. We actually, I really do think work and this type of work can be a force for good in society and to influence and give maybe new perspectives and ideas from people who maybe are not often platformed or listened to. So I think that's my goal with a lot of things that we do at Experience Stockholm. And speaking of that, and to wrap up our conversation here, what are some things that like excite you about the future of programming, especially be it within our company, but also it can be just in general? What are some things that you're like, I wish I can do more of this? Like put it out, manifest it, you know? So everybody knows.
Lovely question, because as you know, I love Experience Stockholm. It's such a young and sparkling business.
Yes, we are sparkling.
Yeah, you all are. People coming from different parts of the world, and it's so exciting to work with all of you. And about the new adventure of starting an event department, sort of. I see a lot of potential here because of this characteristic of Experience Stockholm. So, we want to bring to Stockholm new experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And also from the event point of view, we can definitely work a lot on it. Not that Stockholm miss events, but we can bring something new with our approach, and we already have something in the pot, right? And we will thinking with the same with this vision about it. If we are going to offer a concert series, for instance, it's not going to be only bringing music on stage. It would be something more, creating 360 degrees experience, giving to the audience something more that it connects with music, with the environment, with the venue, and with the kind of music we are going to propose. It would be a little more than a single experience, more complex storytelling, so let's say. So, and yeah, this is my vision about Experience Stockholm events. So we will definitely bring new energies into this already exciting environment of Stockholm.
Yes. We're all very excited about this. I think that especially as the future evolves and develops, I think we'll start to see some opportunities to really do a lot more and maybe even grow the team in that direction. So yeah, well, this has been a pleasure. I really do want people to be able to support the initiatives that you put on, with your own organization and also with Semente. So if people want to find out about your work, maybe they want to hire you to produce something for them, what's the best way for them to do that? What's the best contact?
Going on LinkedIn with my profile, Loredana Franza.
We're going to link that below. Perfect.
Yes. And if you just want to discover a little more about Semente, which is at the moment let's say the box that contains the most of me, you can just have a look at the website semente.se. So, and you can see all the kind of events we have been developing so far. And Experience Stockholm. Maybe you will meet me during one of these tours.
Follow our
If you are Italian, yes. I can also do a tour in Italian. Just book a tour with me, and I will tell you lots of interesting things about Stockholm.
Yes, sounds like a good idea. Yeah. Perfect. So thank you so much, Loredana, for being on the pod.
Thanks to you, Fran.
Yeah, I loved listening to your stories and some of the ideas that you bring to this very traditional, industry. I think you're really trying to shake things up a little bit, and I'm happy to hear that you've been taking this journey, in your stride. So yes, thank you for being here. And if you all enjoy this podcast episode, please make sure you give it a like, subscribe, and follow us for more episodes such as this one. We will keep bringing you guests that have stories related to Stockholm and have built a life here. So if you want to hear more of these stories, please make sure that you stick around and you stay tuned for the next one. So until then, thank you so much. This has been Frankie and Loredana Franza, and our podcast is available on both YouTube and Spotify for anyone who wants to listen. Until the next one, I will see you, and hej då!
And I was walking with my father as a blonde child, and people were actually confronting my father, asking if he had robbed me from somewhere.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Since I was a child, people just assumed that I was like 5 years older than I am, which then meant that everybody put more responsibility onto me. They just threw me on, and I just had to manage.